folks, Lauren from Snowy's here with a Hardkorr 12V coffee pod machine. Now Hardkorr do state that this one is compatible with common pods, and by common pods they're talking about Nespresso ones. So as long as you using pods that are Nespresso compatible, you'll be a-okay with this machine here. Now it does, as the name suggests, run off 12V. It comes with a fused Anderson cable that's fixed into the back of the unit here. So I'll just plug this one in while we're talking. Now this cable is 90 centimeters long. The unit itself weighs around about 1.5 kilos, measuring at about 26 centimeters from front to back here, around 24 centimeters tall and about 12 centimeters wide. Hold up fam, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any awesome content on the Snowy's channel. Let's get into it. Now it is made from a durable ABS plastic. It does have a nylon component in here, which is your pod holder, and all of your seals are silicone with a copper heating element on the inside. Now it's a very simple unit. You've got obviously your front section here and 2 button controls, which we'll run through a little bit later. Our little catcher at the base here, you can, like a normal coffee machine, lift that up and empty it out and clean it out like so, and that just sort of hooks into place on the base there. Oh, I can't quite see around the front. There we go. And then on the back of the unit, we've got our water tank. This holds up to 550 mils, and it does have a max fill line, which you can see if the camera sort of pops down on there, it's got max written. It's important not to fill it more than that max fill line. And then down the bottom here, we've also got our little valve, which is where the water draws into the heating element. Now, this unit at the back is removable, which means it's easily cleaned. It's also handy if you need to fill it up and you don't have a receptacle or jug, or you want to sort of do lots of pouring and transferring of water. You can just pull this off and pop over to the tap and fill it up. Now the attachment that comes with your coffee machine is your little pod capsule or your little pod holder. You can get a ground coffee adapter for this machine, which is available separately from Hardkorr. And in the middle here we have our little, I mentioned before, this one's made from nylon. So this is our little pod holder. So we're going to pop our pod in like so, and then sit that inside the unit there and push it down nice and firm, and then screw our lid on the top. So once that's done, now we're going to simply just insert this up underneath and just give it a gentle twist, because you see we've got these little 4 pins here. So you just give it a sort of gentle twist until it pops up into those little slots, and then you want to be doing a little clockwise turn like so. Now I've plugged the unit in, and I'm going to come forward and actually turn our battery box on here. We can see that instantly the lights come on the top and they're flashing. Essentially, that just means you've got power to your coffee unit and it's sitting in standby mode. It's probably really important to note that Hardkorr there's a couple of old manuals floating around. So at the bottom right hand corner, if you've got V.10, you've got an older manual. The instructions in that aren't quite right in terms of the light flashing sequence. So if you've got a 1.0, just potentially disregard that one. If yours says V1.1, then you've got a current up-to-date manual. So once the unit's lights are flashing on, to get this running, you can press any button. It doesn't matter what size coffee cup you want, and it will instantly go into heating mode. Now I'll rotate the coffee machine just so you can see the water tank here, because as soon as I press this button, what the unit's going to want to do is draw 120 mils from the pump up into the heating tank. Now, once that 120 mils drawn up into the heating tank, we're going to see both of the lights flashing in unison there. So we'll get that timer going. And once the unit has stopped flashing, it will be solid across both buttons, and that's how we know that the heating tank is ready to go. there we go, the lights have stopped flashing. So that is around about 1:43 there, maybe add an extra 5 seconds for my faffing around at the beginning. But so we've got 2 solid lights here, which means the coffee is ready to go. So I've got this glass cup here so we can see the coffee filling up. Now there's a couple of things that are probably worth noting here. The first one is that a single shot or a short cup here is around about 40 to 60 mils. A long cup is around 90 to 110 mils. Now, if you choose to have a long black, what will happen is after that's done, the machine will start alternating flashing and going into standby again, and then it will turn off. If you choose a short cup, you can actually get 2 presses out of the unit before it goes into standby. So what I'll do is I'll press the long black cup now, and we'll have a look at what's coming out of the unit. So the other thing I'm going to do whilst this is happening is Hardkorr mentioned that it is, the water temperature is about 95 degrees, or it heats up to a maximum of 95 degrees. So I'm just going to use our little Uni pizza heater here to test the temperature of the water that's coming out of the coffee machine. So just going through the side, it's sitting at about 38 now, but that's through the glass. So we'll go from the top here. So that's stopped now, and I'll pull that out and we'll do a final temperature reading from the unit here on how hot that coffee is. So that's sitting at about 60, anywhere sort of around 65-ish on average, I would say, which is interesting because apparently 65 is supposed to be the ideal temperature for coffee. So wondering whether or not that specification from Hardkorr about it being 95 is more of like a max temperature. And it probably also has a fair bit to do with the ambient temperature of your water on the back of your unit as well. So once we've got our coffee here, if you are wanting to clear the remaining hot water out of the unit, you can actually long press and hold any of the buttons on the top, and if there is water left, that will pump itself out or run itself out. So we're going to just untwist this little capsule pod capsule thing here. Got a little bit of excess water there, but then it's just a simple matter of discarding your pod, and then if you want to go again, popping a new one in. Otherwise, just popping this to the side, ready for making another coffee in the future. So Hardkorr do recommend giving this machine a regular clean out, and they also say on just water on its own, but adding a coffee cleaner is beneficial as well. So I'm just going to put this larger glass cup in there so we can have a look. Just a nice long press of these 2 buttons at the front here. And then once we hear the pump going and take our hands away, the fast flash of either light is show us that the cleaning cycle is underway. And you can see that the water is being drawn down, and now that's running through the coffee machine and giving it a good clean out. Now it's also worth noting here that the cleaning cycle doesn't heat water in any way, so it's just the cold water running through. If you're using coffee cleaner, you're just adding it into the back tank with the rest of the water. So the lights are flashing slowly, which means the unit is back to standby. And now I'm going to turn off our battery. So all in all, this coffee machine will draw around about 0.8 amps for a large coffee. It does peak at 34 amps though, which is a spike that occurs when the heating element is heating up your little 120 ml water tank. So you do need to make sure that you are connected to a 50 amp Anderson output that has a current capacity exceeding 34 amps. And you will have no issues running your coffee machine. Very low draw all in all, and a very quick and easy coffee to make on the road. That's it for the Hardkorr 12V coffee pod maker. You can get this at snowies.com.au at our low prices every day.